Yeah, Jarrah is the strangest anomaly out of everybody involved with the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, due to the simple fact that he simply didn't fit the profile. Grew up in Bekaa Valley, Lebanon, to a family that didn't pressure him to entertain any religious ideology. Was friends with Jews and Christians at a prestigious middle school. Um, then relocated to Germany with his cousin, Salim Al Jarrah, decided to take up aeronautical engineering. And through this, he actually goes to one of the most radical mosques in all of Germany, Al Quds, located in Hamburg. There he fits right in with others who are persuaded by the Wahhabi ideology led by the Imam at the mosque, Muhammad Fazizi. And in the weeks leading up to, even the years leading up to 9/11, there are many anomalies following this specific individual. And to me, he is the uh, stopgap or the door stopper, if you will, to keep the door open regarding the actual conspiracies involving September 11, 2001. For example, in January 30th of 2000, Ziad Jarrah actually arrived in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, to change planes when flying from Peshawar, Pakistan, to Amsterdam, Holland. And he's actually stopped by authorities in Dubai by immigration officials because they questioned whether he was a young radical Islamist. Usually, those who partake in Al Qaeda training camps in Afghanistan travel to Pakistan and then fly over to a neighboring country. But these passports are stamped from the original country that they were in. Usually, young males coming out of Afghanistan and invite interest from immigration and local authorities due to the fact that it's known worldwide that Al Qaeda training camps are existing there. Um, Now, the United Arab officials will later claim that Jarrah was stopped based on a tip-off from the United States government. A United Arab Emirates source will tell author Jane Corbin, who wrote the book Al Qaeda: The Base, that it was at the quote, it was at the request of the Americans, and it was specifically because of Jarrah's links with Islamic extremists, his contacts with terrorist organizations. That was the extent of what we were told, end quote. Now, these same United Arab Emirates officials will tell this to CNN, Chicago Tribune over the years. However, US officials will claim that no tip off ever existed in the first place. Now, according to CNN, the questioning of Jarrah in Dubai fits the pattern of a CIA operative description to CNN by those officials from the United Arab Emirates and other European sources. Now, those sources say that in 1999, the CIA began an operation to track suspected Al Qaeda operatives as they transitioned there. One of the sources provided showing the airport layout, describing how people wanted for questioning were intercepted more often at a transit desk. Excuse me. Now, these officials from the United Arab Emirates will claim that the stop is particularly long, and that after the suspicious tapes that were found in his luggage, books were found, Jarrah was actually questioned for hours. However, the FBI will claim that it was routine, contradicting the officials from the US government about not giving them a tip-off. Now, the 9/11 Commission will later state that it was a minor problem, and they relegated to even just a footnote in the text. And while they're holding Jarrah, they call the CIA in the United States, and the US tells them to let Jarrah go, and they will track him. Now, if you know that there's a a young male who's coming out of Afghanistan, traveled to Pakistan, and then flew to the United Arab Emirates for a connecting flight to Holland. You're probably saying this guy wants to either shake whatever trail that's monitoring him, or he's meeting other people in certain areas, bringing a message from these training camps in Afghanistan. Regardless, there's a lot of contradictory evidence here that shows that Ziad Jarrah certainly did attract the attention of foreign and U.S. Intelligence. And this is January of 2000. So that's one anomaly. Then you have another anomaly that happened in June of 2001, where Ziad Jarrah made a trip to Las Vegas, but actually he tells one of the 9/11 coordinators, Ramzi bin al-Shibh, that he was being followed by security officers on the trip to Las Vegas. Now, according to 9/11 Commission, they don't know why Ziad Jarrah, Mohammed Atta, Marwan al-Shih traveled to Las Vegas on different flights and what they were meeting there for. Some would speculate that this was supposed to be one of the cities that was going to be attacked. Another was to basically meet together and basically fit in the population as tourists to a city that garners millions of tourists annually. It really isn't known. The FBI basically says that the reason for the meeting was to plan the 9/11 attacks at a different area of the United States where they wouldn't be noticed. But according to Ziad Jarrah, they were noticed. Another anomaly, and this one is really something that needs attention to. In the days before 9/11, Ziad Jarrah actually, when he flew from Florida to, from Maryland to New Jersey, he rented a room for himself at the Marriott. And he also rented a room for the muscle hijackers of United Airlines Flight 93. Ziad Jarrah stood in room 466 at the Marriott, and the three muscle hijackers stood at room 468. That's Ahmed al-Hasnawi, Ahmed al-Nami, and Mustafa al-Hasnawi, Ahmed al-Nami, and Saeed al-Ghamdi. And then Jarrah drove unexpectedly to Maryland. And this is actually September 5th. But on September 9th, Ziad Jarrah checks out of the Marriott with the muscle hijackers and relocates to the Days Inn Motel, which is located by Newark Airport. Ziad Jarrah again pays for two separate rooms. Ziad Jarrah pays $36.89 for each of the muscle hijackers to stay in room 727, and Ziad Jarrah pays $36.89 to rent the room for himself in room 725. And then he uses Ahmed al-Nami's credit card to rent a computer while there, and he stood on for an hour. What was said on that computer, only the FBI knows. But why did he rent the room for himself? Why wouldn't you, I guess, save money? Or why wouldn't you want to coordinate with the people on the most important operation in, Al-Qaeda's history, terrorism history? This would be the biggest, most important operation in terrorist history. And yet you're not going to stay with the very people who are protecting you from a revolt on the airplane. Why the separate rooms? Why didn't you make it 2 and 2? If you're going to say, well, there's not enough beds in the room. Why did he stay and have 3 other guys stay in the separate room? Well, this happened in Europe when he was living in Europe. When he lived in Germany, he lived in a room by himself. He rented a room from a woman who was renting rooms in Greifswald, Germany. When he was in Florida, he stood in a hotel and apartments by himself. When he was in Germany, he rented a room or stayed in an apartment by himself. He was never seen with any of the 9/11 pilot hijackers or muscle hijackers, except for one time. And that is an infamous video that was obtained by the US military and given to the US officials in Washington, which shows that Ziad Jarrah and Mohammed Atta are in video in January of 2000 at the Tanakh Farms in Afghanistan. Tanakh Farms is an Al Qaeda training camp, but there is no sound. I have the video uploaded to the Odyssey channel because on YouTube it's considered advocating for terrorism. Dumb. But that's all I wanted to talk about, was basically to talk about the strange and different anomalies and very mysterious profile of Ziad Jarrah. Not to mention also that Ziad Jarrah's family, well, some of them anyway, had links with Israeli and foreign intelligence. And there's been people like Ryan Dawson and Nelson Martins who have brought this up in previous videos over the years regarding his cousin and his uncle, Asim al-Jarrah and Ali al-Jarrah. And I've written articles and did videos about this as well, that they were working for Israeli and Libyan German intelligence. You would think that Al Qaeda would do a better background check on who they were allowing as a pilot hijacker in the most important operation in Al Qaeda's history. But you'll find that if you could get your foot in the door regarding who this individual really was and who was monitoring this individual, all the way to the intricate details of the 9/11 attacks, well, then you'll finally understand that there is a mixture regarding and a link regarding terrorism, the intelligence apparatuses, and the US government and foreign governments in regards to the greater geopolitical picture. And I wish more people would get behind that instead of believing the more fantastical tales of the 9/11 attacks. And this way we can get to the bottom of why these attacks were allowed to happen and whether or not there was an additional entity that even pushed for these attacks to happen or even planned alongside, either directly or indirectly, regarding the plane's operation of September 11, 2001.